Alright, so we 3-1 the daily, which is great. I'm now pack rich. But one of the rounds did not get recorded because Magic Online had a couple issues. So now we're in this 2-man, and we'll see how that goes. Alright, just had to make sure everything was in the right spot. Make sure I was recording like the actual screen and not just like a part of it. But everything looks good. My girlfriend's over there just busting a bunch of packs and has got me some good stuff. Wanted to show off the dig through time to go with a couple Sorens, one of them foil. It's okay to be jealous. So it looks like we're playing a mirror match here. I'm going to probably get in for maybe 3 on turn 1. It's like kind of risky to just pay 4 life off the bat against the mirror, if this is actually the mirror. But okay, now we don't have to do any of that stuff. We can just play Delver. If it is the mirror, I could potentially see an argument for playing Swift Spear first. Not only because I actually get some damage in, but if he bolts that, I'm way more fine with him bolting Swift Spear than my Delver. But if it's anything else, if he's like Sneak and Show or Storm or something, I don't think either of those decks plays Lightning Bolts. Now our Delver is dead. Then again, not sure if Swift Spear would actually draw the bolts. But he does not appear to have a second land. And we'll see what he's working with here in a second. Now, since he's so far behind, I think it's okay to pay 2 life. Alright, so we have... Oh, so not a mirror match. 2 Force, Cruise, True Name, Batter Skull, and Swords. So certainly not the best hand I've ever seen. He can't put me under pressure, basically, so I'm going to fire off this other probe, try and find my second land before I get wastelanded. And we do find an island. So... if he draws a cantrip, I'm going to want to Spell Pierce it. If he draws a land to source my guy, I'm going to want to Spell Pierce that too. So I think it's worth just keeping open Pierce, not casting Brainstorm here. Probably just waiting until my turn to Brainstorm and just getting in for 3. Now we got a Bloodstained Mire, so we're just getting rich over here. And drew another Lightning Bolt, so we're happily going to Pierce that, continue on the pressure. And it's kind of rough, you know, not having lands, having a bunch of expensive cards in your hand. Might be worth forcing this, and yep, forces removing True Name. So now down to Force, Cruise, Batterskull, Swords. And I'm going to be able to play a fully powered Brainstorm and a fully powered Treasure Cruise. So do I want to keep any of these bolts? I could shuffle them away with the Brainstorm, or I could wait until post-Cruise and potentially shuffle away a bunch of lands and keep these bolts. So I think I'm just going to do that. Seems like a better course of action. Basically, the only time I've lost this matchup is to Wasteland. So that is certainly something worth noting. If I have like some 3-landers in the next couple games, then I'll be pretty happy to keep those. So he forces the Cruise, removing his own Cruise. Now he's down to Batterskull, Swords. And I guess I should have seen that coming. Like, he kind of has to do that. So now I'm just going to wait a turn on this Brainstorm, trying to hit a fetch. So I probably shouldn't have blown that fetch. I don't know. Could have just played my fetch and then cruised for 2 mana, I guess. He gets to draw a Tarn, now has Tundra. Still just a Batterskull and a Sword. So we have a Daze. Gonna run the potential Brainstorm lock here. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it does. I think that's still okay, though. We have a Probe to get past one of the cards. Yeah, and since I know what I'm drawing, I can't really do anything with the Probe. So I'm fine just paying a mana for the Probe next turn and waiting and seeing an extra card, because it doesn't change anything, actually. He drew his own Cruise. So that's good for him. But have this main deck Pyroblast, which is pretty great. So sorry about that, but now is probably the time to be playing main deck Pyros, if you ever felt so inclined. Well, so now do I even probe him here? Yeah, I'll just wait again. I don't think it's going to tax my mana too much on the next turn. Basically, no matter what I draw, unless it's like cantrip into cantrip. So he has a Brainstorm. That's going to be pretty good. Probably digging for a fetch. Going to try and put that Batterskull back. Or just like digging for land, Stoneforge Mystic. We'll see what happens though. Finds another Tundra, so also Brainstorm locked, it looks like. So now we'll get to probe and see what he kept. Presumably a Swords to Plowshares. Pierce and a Daze. So just showed me both the cards that he drew, but that kind of makes sense since you want to keep both of those open. And then we had a Delta as the last card down, so that's kind of unfortunate. But our opponent is locked for the most part for 2 turns. And we're free now, so still pretty far ahead. Drew Tropical Island. I'm going to play it. Now I have Force of Will plus Daze, and I think Daze is probably going to counter the Batterskull somewhere down the line, so hard casting Force would probably be pretty good. Let me draw another Force. So our opponent is now out of the lock. And fires off a Ponder. I guess Hardcast Force is probably pretty bad if he has Daze and Pierce. So yeah. I would normally want to force this. Like if I could get Hardcast Force, I would definitely do that. Just kind of wasn't really thinking about the cards that were in his hand. So it's a good thing that I did do that. I did probe him. So I got to see those things and like didn't walk into them. Almost did. It was close. And it looks like a not shuffle. So Delver is in there. Not for long, but is in there. And I'm just going to fire off Chain Lightning and hold this Volcanic. So Daze, Pierce, Batterskull, Sword still, plus a random card. This game is kind of funny. Like neither of us are really doing anything. And he has a Brainstorm. That's fine. Hope you lock yourself again. It'd be great. Don't draw fetch land. Ugh. My computer's not bad, but it cannot handle Magic Online. And again, does not hit a fetch land. Does hit a True Name Nemesis, though, and that is certainly worth fighting over. I think I'm just going to pick up a land with this Daze. More fuel for Brainstorm later. We have a Young Pyromancer. So Daze, Pierce, Batterskull, Swords, and a random card that went back. So if I play Pyromancer, we'll probably get Swords. I'm not sure if I want to actually force that or not. Seems like I probably don't, because then I run the risk of losing to a Batterskull. So I play out a land that he didn't know I had, which is kind of silly, but it is slightly better than the island I would have otherwise played. We draw a Ponder, so now I think we can just run out this Pyromancer. And he still has Daze and Pierce, so I'm going to try and remain cognizant of that and keep up as much mana as possible. I don't want him to ever trade those two for a card, if I can help it. So he's going to Swords that. That's fine with me. Definitely want to keep this Force of Will for Batterskull. And then our top cards are Delver, Brainstorm, and Lightning Bolt. I'm going to keep all those. So if I played Delver, he can't Pierce and Daze me. So I'm still fine doing that. So he finally found some threats. And he has a Lightning Bolt for his random card, and that's fine with me. Certainly not too attached to that Delver. Batterskull's the big deal here, although he wouldn't be able to play it this turn, but he has a fresh draw step. Next turn, I believe. It's not a good Brainstorm here. I know one of the cards is a Bolt. I'm just going to wait for a turn. Try and get a card deeper, actually find something that matters. Find a Treasure Cruise. So he finally finds a fetch land and is not going to run his Batterskull out there. Changed his mind. Is going to run Batterskull out there. So his hand is Daze and Pierce, so now I can just hardcast this Force. And that's good. That saves me a Force of Will, and then if I Brainstorm into something else, then that helps. Then I can have another Force of Will available. You could certainly Daze it here to break my fetch land. That would be understandable. Got a fetch in response here. And we find another fetch land. Awkwardly enough, all out of lands to fetch. But we do have another Treasure Cruise. Probably don't have to fire this off for the maximum amount of mana. Just delve 5 cards, and then the next one will be way cheaper. So we have Spell Pierce, and if I want to play this Delver, and he plays like a real threat, I'm not sure what that would be. Maybe True Name at this point, and I want to force it. I won't be able to play around Spell Pierce. He doesn't necessarily know that though. But he did use his Daze to crack my fetch last time, so he might do it this time too. So I'm just going to save this Delver to pitch to Force of Will. And he wastes my Trop, fearing some sort of like Tarmogoyf for something, but it's only for sideboard cards, so not a big deal. Now we're going to play a big cruise. And we just, for the most part, draw some lands and whatnot, but we have a Pyromancer. Bunch of lands that don't fetch anything. Not sure if it's even worth it to play out a land. It's like a shuffler if I want one. If I draw a Brainstorm, I only have to put one of the cards back basically because I'll have this other land, so yeah, I'll play out one. Also gives the appearance that I have more mana than what I actually do for Spell Pierces, so might not be the worst thing. And we draw another Pyromancer, so now we can just start going wild. And there's basically no way for him to catch back up at this point, especially since I have like another cruise in my top whatevers, my top 3. So keep holding open for Spell Pierce, and the game should end this turn. I just get to attack and then bolt him a bunch. Assuming that one of those did not work. I assume the attack would have worked, but never know if there are any holy days up in here. So I like the Pyros, I like the Grudges. Fire Blast can go, Dazes can go, and a Force can go. And then I could be a little bit more aggressive. I could play things like Price of Progress or Vortex. But I think I like all the stuff I have now. Like, Spell Pierce is certainly not great. I should probably have this Blue Blast in here. Maybe I'll just keep all the forces. I want to counter True Name. Make sure it doesn't stick. Should have enough things for his cruises with the Pyroblast and everything. Just want to make sure I have enough Pyros, enough counterspells. Maybe Daze is kind of good, actually, even though I'm on the draw. He was tapping out a bunch, but I don't know. Also didn't have any lands for a while, so I'll just save the Dazes for Game 3, where I'll be on the play. So opening hand certainly fine. Like I said, one of the main ways I lose to this deck is through Wasteland. So I do have a 2-lander, which is nice, but you know, it makes me a little cautious, because if I get wasted on the first one, then things can get tough. But thankfully I drew another land. His hand is good. It can be weak to a bunch of stuff. Like if his hand is, you know, spot removal and card drawing, we're in trouble. If his hand is True Name Nemesis, we're kind of in trouble. But it's like, this hand is really good against a lot of different stuff he could be doing, so certainly no way I can mulligan. He just goes for the very aggressive Wasteland, so might be followed up with a Bolt on my Delver. That would not surprise me. And there it is. Alright, so now we're just going to play Wooded Foothills. Don't want to get wasted again. Would prefer to at least stick the Young Pyromancer before getting set back down to 1 land. But he does not have another land, it looks like. Okay, so play our land, fetch. Not many of these decks play Stifle, but I'll still try and play around it where I can like force his Stifle and still pay for days. We'll just Young Pyromancer, run a Pyromancer out there, see what happens. Certainly see a Daze. But it looks like a Force of Will. I'm not sure if... I don't think I'm supposed to force this back. Feels like it just gets pierced at that point. You bitch a True Name, so it could certainly have another one of those, and then if I get to force that, it's very unlikely, considering his current mana situation, that he would get to pierce back, so I'm in no real hurry to stick this Pyromancer, but it looks like he drew another Wasteland, or he was sandbagging it. I'm not sure which. I feel like with True Name in hand, maybe you would just play it, but who knows. So we drew a Cruise, which is good, but only have 5 things in our yard, so we can't cast it yet. If he plays something and we bolt it and like fight over it, then I would have enough stuff for Cruise, but I'm not going to start bolting him. Well, now I might, because I'm missing another land drop, but last turn I don't think it was right. So now he has a Tundra. So his mana's there, and I don't know what's going on here. He's not playing anything. If he had a Stoneforge or a Delver, presumably he would cast it. So I'm just going to bolt him. If I miss my land drop, at least I'm not discarding. I hit a Brainstorm, so that's not bad, but I already thought that he might have Spell Pierce. Also, wouldn't surprise me if he had like Stoneforge and a red Elemental Blast or a Pyroblast. So maybe I'm just better off holding this Brainstorm for Force of Will. So I definitely want to resolve this Cruise. I don't think I'm going to win any other way. It's possible if he does nothing that I bolt him and then Cruise with double Force backup. I'm not sure if that would be good or not. He just plays a Jit, so... Now I think I'm Brainstorming. And we don't hit anything, but we do hit a Probe, so Cruise is live if I want it to be. But does that actually get me anywhere? Because I'm going to have to discard a bunch of cards. I guess I didn't need the Probe either, but it's nice. Nice to have. Yeah, so we'll take a look. We'll see what he's working with. Yeah, 2 Pyros. Stoneforge, True Name, and a Cruise. So we're going cruising. We're going to try and hit a land. If we don't hit a land, we're in trouble. But then again, if there are no lands in our top 3, we're probably in trouble anyway. And there are no lands. So we're at 10 cards. And are just going to be discarding a bunch, I guess. Very strange. So I think Chain Lightning, Pyromancer. What else? A Pyroblast? Because I want both for a Stoneforge. I want 2 Force of Wills. I want a Cruise to refuel. And then, yeah, it just has to be a Pyro, even though I kind of want Pyro because he has Cruise and True Name. I think this is what I have to do. And I just let that resolve. So that I can bolt. Can't bolt anything else. Gets Batterskull, which is not surprising, considering he already has the Jit in play. And still don't hit a land. So again, got wastelanded twice. This game is kind of a mess. Doing what I can, though. Alright, so he's got a 3rd land. Probably just going to run True Name out there, and he does. I'm going to force pitching Brainstorm. Hope that there are no dazes or anything. And he does daze it. Okay. So that is kind of bad news. That makes me play Force again, because I certainly can't be True Name plus Jit. So I can pitch Brainstorm here, still have a Force of Will for, you know, his Batterskull or whatever. I guess he has 2 Pyros, so maybe that's not the best card. So now he has 2 Pyros, Batterskull, Treasure Cruise, Tundra. I know his entire hand. And we drew a Trop, which is pretty nice. Alright, so we have Force Blue card, a Threat, and a Pyro, so now we're not looking too bad. Also have a removal spell in case he draws a Mystic or a Delver. He's just going right for Treasure Cruise. If he drew like a Daze or a Pierce, this is going to end up pretty bad for me. But we're in the clear. So draw Flooded Strand. So now we're out of our mana troubles for sure. Get to play this Pyromancer, but I'm not going to play any other spells. I need the probe for the Force, I think, although we could just Pyro whatever I force, so maybe that's not the smartest. Maybe I could just fire off a probe there. He does have a Delver, so I'm glad I didn't chain anything. So Batterskull, 2 Pyros. That's his hand. That's fine. Then I get to keep Force for his Batterskull, because he's probably not going to be able to play that. Well, now, don't need to force his Batterskull anymore. Oh, maybe that was bad. Yeah, the very seldom used Chain Lightning redirect. Kind of like this Pyromancer. Batterskull, 2 Pyros. Yeah, I'm going to force this, because he doesn't have any red left. I did not think about that. But I do think it is worth forcing, and had I thought about it, I would still make the same play. Probably. And he just drew a bolt, so, okay. It's still fine. Still have 2 guys in a grudge. He has 2 fairly worthless Pyros, and now we have Swift Spear too? Oh yeah. All these 1-power beats. Take that, down to 10 life. Oh, might be Batterskull time. He's probably not going to be happy about the card that's in my hand. So the question really is, do I wait until my turn to get the prowess damage? And I think the answer is yes. I drew a Delver, so gonna get to use all of our mana this turn. And there it is. There's the splash coming in handy. Gets to kill the Batterskull, and then if he draws a creature, I still get to kill the Jit. So everything works out. Just so happens that this game took 14 turns for no real reason, just because we were both mana screwed. But yeah, that's it. So overall, 4-1 in matches. I did lose to Shardless Sultai. I don't know how, but I did. But yeah, this deck's pretty good. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep a lot of my changes like Grudge. You know, I mean, obviously it's good, but I'm not sure if it's worth the Tropical Island. Although you did see him game 1 just like go after my Trop, so that was kind of interesting. But yeah, deck is certainly good. It basically doesn't really matter how much you kind of mess it up as long as you keep the core there. And I even made a few mistakes, and the deck just kind of bailed me out. So overall, this deck is great. I'm certainly going to keep playing it.